Hi guys, welcome to another killer ranking tier list. Today we're going to be ranking the killers based on who I like facing the most when I am playing Survivor. So it's going to be a little bit different this time around. And remember, this list is subjective. I think this is the most subjective of lists that you can probably make. It's just, you know, looking at who you like personally to face. Some people hate facing every killer in the game, and it makes me wonder why they even play this video game if they hate playing it so much. And some people are very, very lackadaisical and like playing everybody. I have a good mixture, so let's go ahead and take a look at what we're going to be ranking them by. Green is my favorites. This kind of like off-green color is a good time. So like, you know, if I get this person, I'm like, yay, this is cool. This brownish color would rather face another. So this is somebody I get them and I'm like, oh, that's not too bad. But like, I would rather have somebody from the other two lists. This orange color is a bad time. So if I get this person, I'm like, oh, great. Oh, man. But not as bad as the red, which is I would rather eat glass than fight this character, which there are a few of those. So let's go ahead and get started without further ado. Okay, he's been sitting here. He's been sitting here for a little bit, so let's go ahead and cover Trapper. Trapper, I think, is a good time. I don't think he's at the top of a good time. He won't stay there. He won't stay there, I promise. I think he's like a character that's pretty simple. So in that regard, there's not a lot of shenanigans or, in that regard, unfun things that you have to go through while facing Trapper. I think the one, you know, exception to this is Trapper is incredibly oppressive in basement. But I think that's more of like a basement thing than like a Trapper thing. A Trapper can be really, really sneaky, and when you get hit by a good trap, you're like, oh wow, I didn't expect you to put that one there, and it's kind of fun. Also, there's a lot of counterplay, like going around and undoing his traps, so you know it's a good time. You know, like I typically have not a terrible time fighting a Trapper. Okay, Wraith. Oh, Wraith before his buff would have been a good time, but I will say Wraith right now is a bad time, at least in his current form. The buff he got with Windstorm is great. I love that he has map mobility now, but his lunge makes him incredibly annoying to fight a Survivor because there's so many tiles where he just kind of like wins for no reason, like just because you happen to be at the tile and you know he uncloaks and he has like he just lunges way too far. I think survivors hate Wraith for the same reason killers hate Dead Hard, is because all a survivor has to do with Dead Hard is reach close enough to a window, close enough to a tile, and all they do is press C and they win. And that's what Wraith does with his lunge, at least in its current form. Is that he just, you know, wins the tile for the most part, unless the Wraith screws up, just because his lunge is so long. And when you have that lack of counterplay, it's super frustrating. So I do not like fighting Wraith, and I'm sure everybody agrees with that. All right, Hillbilly. Hillbilly is one of my favorites. I will say he is not like at the top of my favorites. I have a few other favorites that I like a lot too. But having a Billy that actually likes to curve and try to hit those curves and trying to dodge those and like barely getting out of the way is a super fun time. And there's a few things in this game that feel good rather than like barely avoiding a Billy chainsaw. And also when Billy hits his chainsaw, it's not like it's an easy thing to pull off. So it's like you're like, oh cool, whatever. Because you know it's hard to get mad at a Billy because the things they are doing are so like skillful and hard to pull off. So it's hard to be mad at them. It's hard to be frustrated at them. So you know, you just gotta compared to a lot of other killers on this list, like Billy's just an all around a good time. All right, Nurse. This might be a little bit of a controversial one. Nurse is going to be at the bottom of a good time for me. As somebody who's like, you know, taking the time, I'm not a good nurse by any stretch of the imagination, but I've spent a lot of time learning this character. And it's one of those things where, yes, a good nurse will like steamroll you, but like when you get a learning nurse or somebody who's even like a moderately skilled nurse, finding them is super fun because like trying to like telegraph like where they're blinking and how they're blinking, I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. Of course, I think we judge our experience with the nurse based on those few nurses we fight that are like super good at the game and they're running Starstruck, distressing, and they're super frustrating to fight. And yeah, that does exist, and that's why she's not at the top of a good time or a favorite at all. But I feel like when a nurse hits a good blink, it's like respect. It's not like a frustration thing. I think it, you know, obviously goes into frustrating when they're just like super crazy good and there's nothing you can do. But that realistically doesn't happen that often. All right, we have Huntress. This is going to be a controversial one. I know this is going to be a controversial one. This is going to upset some people, and I know. I would rather face somebody else. Dodging Huntress hatchets sometimes is one of the most fun things you can do, especially somebody who plays Huntress. Like trying to like mind game in your head, I'm like, when would I throw a hatchet here? Is like a super fun thing to, you know, try and like determine. But the problem is that like her beach ball hitboxes are so forgiving that a lot of her hits happen when they realistically just shouldn't. And nothing feels worse as a survivor than getting the read on a hatchet, dodging correctly, and it just hits anyway because of A, the server, B, lag, or the giant hitbox. So essentially, like, even though, like, in theory, she should be super fun, her giant hitboxes make her miserable to fight because even if you know, correctly dodge, it might just, you know, give it to her anyway. And that's just a shitty feeling, and it makes her miserable to fight, in my opinion. Mukul Myers, you know. A lot of people hate fighting Mukul because they you know, he pops his tier 3 and insta downs you, and everybody whines about that because it doesn't have counterplay. But like most of the time he's just an M2 killer. He just follows you around. It's fun to try and like hide behind corners to try and deny him his stock. If he's bringing a tombstone, you're like, uh-oh. You know, you like try to get through the gens as quick as possible and not get killed. And if it's Scratch Myers, you like have to like keep an eye out and be really, really careful. For the most part, people don't play Scratch Myers Scummy. There's a way you can play it Scummy where you just like camp hooks, but like for the most part, fighting Myers is a good time. Also, it's my favorite horror character ever, so like I'm incredibly biased with that. That's very much a subjective choice, so just keep that in mind. Oh brother, it's Hag. And this is going to be our first would rather eat glass character. I'm sure you saw that coming. I get that the point of Hag is that she's quote-unquote anti-meta. Instead of like patrolling the whole map, she just patrols like a small area and she just, you know, calls it a day. But like realistically how that actually plays out is that she ends up just camping hooks, and a lot of the time you just gotta like lose despite not making mistakes. Should have just brought a flashlight to get rid of the traps forehead. The fact that there's just like no way to get rid of the traps besides using the flashlight is just really dumb. Also, she's the only character in your game in the game that takes the controls out of the hands of the player, because when you stumble upon a trap, it literally changes your camera angle. It literally spins your camera. So it literally is the only character in the game, to my knowledge, unless I'm forgetting something, that literally grabs the controls out of your hands as Survivor. So that's pretty stupid. So she's probably, I would argue she's probably the most miserable character to fight in the game. We'll see when we get to some of the other ones, because some of the other ones are like really annoying. But like she's probably the least fun to fight in the game for that reason, just because of the inherent camping that she does, plus, you know, ripping the controls out of your hands and having so little counterplay. All right, Dr. Shocker. I would rather face somebody else. I'd rather face somebody else. Doc's whole thing, like, inherently is like, you know, denying your ability to play the game. And you know, that takes some skill to do. Like, doing those shocks are really hard. So it's not like the worst thing in the world. That's why it's not just like outright a bad time, you know? Because like if that was easy to do, he would be a bad time. But like I can respect a doctor that gets good shocks. I think another thing is like there's like a community aspect to this. I feel like a lot of doctors I play against are like really mean people. Like a lot of mean after chats have come from doctors, a lot of like face camping and BMing and all that wonderful stuff. I don't know what's wrong with the doctor community. Maybe you could help me out with that. But the Dr. Shockers peepos are usually the ones that are like really obnoxious. So that doesn't help either. But yeah, all around, I would rather face somebody else, mostly for those reasons. All right, Booba. Good old Booba. I don't know. This one's gonna make people upset too, I feel like. I don't really think Bubba's a good time. I just don't. I would rather face somebody else. And once again, this may have to do more with like the Bubba players and their play styles, because like I think Bubba inherently is fun and there's a lot of like risk and terror with avoiding his chainsaw. But in practice, a lot of Bubba players like to like camp the hook or camp basement or, you know, that sort of thing. I don't know what it is about Bubba players. A lot of them don't play in a very like sensical way. They mostly just play for like 1 kill or 2 kills, and they just camp a lot. So I don't know. I feel like this character can be really fun and can be super fun to fight, but in like practice, it's like a lot of people play him really annoyingly. So I when I see a Bubba, I'm like, oh no, it's a Bubba, you know. So I personally would rather face somebody else. Oh, Fredward, you are definitely a bad time. You're more than Wraith. You're better than Wraith now. Congratulations. But you're definitely a bad time. Even after Freddy's nerf, a lot, like the fact that he, his puddles still, his snares, sorry, I always call them puddles, his snares still just kind of like slow down and win chases without much counterplay. Super annoying. The fact that he can just teleport to a gen with Pop Tinker and just pop it, or pop Ruin, or Tinker Ruin, and just knock you off of it right away. It's just super annoying. It's still possible to do like super slowdown Freddy. You just don't have add-ons to help you anymore. So some people still run like Thana Pop and stuff like that, and they use the fact that they can teleport around to like slow down the match a lot. And it's like, it's just boring. Like, it's not even like, oh, well, he's just being really efficient. It's just like, he's just using his power at the base level without much thought, and it's just making the game take 10 million years to go by. I think a good palette Freddy is fun. I think when you get those players that run like palette Freddy, it can be a good time, which is why he's not I would rather eat glass than fight this character, because a good palette Freddy can be super fun. All right, Pigu. Pigu's a good time. I think more than Trapper, I would say. Pigu's a good time. Dodging her dash mine games, super fun. Trying to get the trap off while also not getting caught by her, kind of fun. Yeah, I think that's really it. I think like the fact that I can't really think of any downsides is a good thing. There are some pigs who like to like intentionally like slug you and like drag you around trying to get a head pop. I think those kind of pigs suck, but like literally I don't run into those pigs very often. Usually it's just people trying to get like cool like quick dashes and stuff like that. Like usually pigs are a good time. Usually there's not anything, up with that. So yeah. Oh boy, it is Clown. Clown is a bad time. Clown is just kind of a bad time. Clown's mostly just a boring time, I would say. I think that's the most his biggest crime is that he's boring. His bottles slow you down, so you just got to drop pallets super early, and then he usually has brutal strength because a lot of clowns understand that the counterplay is to pre-drop pallets, which already isn't fun, and then they chew through the pallet super quickly, and then they down you anyway. That is the chasing with Clown. From the survivor perspective, Clown is probably one of the least interesting characters in the game to fight against. There's definitely killers that are more oppressive and frustrating, which is like why he's not in I Would Rather Eat Glass or even at the bottom of a bad time, because he's still not very good, at least, but he commits the worst sin in a video game, which is being boring. Very, very, very boring to face. So it's like, ugh. Okay, we have Spirit. Spirit, and this is before the nerf, okay? So the nerf has not happened yet. I would say Spirit's a bad time. I don't know. Do I hate her more than anything? Slightly. Spirit's a bad time, and nobody's gonna... nothing I'm gonna tell you is gonna be new or interesting, right? Like, standstill mind games, super strong without a whole lot of effort. She's just like the Sweat Lord's dream because like she has so much power for so little effort. So a lot of people that play her as well play her very, very intensely, despite her being like a cooler character in my opinion. So it's just kind of miserable because of the lack of the counterplay and how intense usually the Spirit players play. So usually if I get a Spirit, I know it's going to be a bad time. Good old Legion, good old Legion. I would rather face somebody else. Legion's kind of like the better the better brother sister combo to Clown, whereas Legion, there's no real way to avoid the Feral Frenzy just because it is so fast. There are some ways you can like lock or attack, you can window attack and hope that they miss, but a good Legion won't miss. And then like they get that free injury, and then you just have to hold M1 and mend your deep wound, which is just kind of like not interesting gameplay to just do this on yourself for a little bit. And then you go hop on the gen, and they come after you, and if you've healed, they'll frenzy you again and stab you, and then you have to do this some more, and it's just not very invigorating gameplay. Like it's not a bad time. It's just like there's not a whole lot happening in terms of fighting Legion. It's just kind of Like, I would just rather face somebody more interesting, which is why I think they're at the top if we'd rather face another, because it's not that Legion's bad, I don't think. Like, Legion's not unfun to face. It's just kind of like the most average mest experience to fight as Survivor. So, yeah. Good old Plagu, good old Adyrus. Adyrus is an interesting one. I actually haven't thought about Adyrus. A lot of these I looked at and I'm like, you know what? I know where they'll probably end up. Adyrus is an interesting one. I'm gonna put her at the bottom of a good time. She's kind of like the bridge. Like, if you're better than her, you're probably a good time, and if you're less fun than her, you're probably like not great. Because like, she's fun because you have a lot of like fun counterplay options with like the pools and when to cleanse and when you don't cleanse. She does kind of just like completely ruin healing builds. So like there's just like an entire side of the game you can't play as when she's around. So it's kind of yucky, right? It's kind of annoying. Oh, I got a follow. Thank you, friendo. Vegan Saurus Rex, thank you so much for the follow. While I'm recording this video, you get a shout out on the YouTube. But yeah, Plague is like the fact that Plague just kind of like nukes an entire playstyle survivor where you can't bring a healing build and you can't bring healing items is just kind of like, oh, okay. But like typically, like, you know, avoiding the puke, avoiding the corrupt purge, cleansing at right times, it's not a bad time, you know. Like, it could be worse, you know. I would rather face her if we're just looking at the this part. I would rather face her than everybody else. So, you know, that is the name of that category now, isn't it? All right, Ghostface. Ghostface is another one I didn't really think about when I thought about this list. I would put rather face another. Do I like him more or less than Legion? I think I like him slightly less than Legion, and here's why. It's kind of another Huntress-esque thing, where like Ghostface, once again, the counterplay is kind of just like pre-dropping pallets or dropping pallets early, not greeting them, because if you're 99'd or stocked or exposed, you know, you gotta like play safer. I think another problem with Ghostface specifically is this idea that, you know, you're supposed to stare at the main counterplay. You're supposed to be able to stare at him to break him out of his power, but like that is so ridiculously inconsistent that like I wonder what the heck is going on the DBD side of things as to why that's so incredibly inconsistent. And like, even if like me as Survivor, I spot Ghostface and I want to break him out so he doesn't stalk me or my friends, I'll look dead at him, dead center of my camera, and he just won't break out of his stealth, like no matter what I do. Other times, like, you know, like I'll be able to break him out from across the entire map by staring at him from like half a second, but he'll be like 2 feet away from me and I'm trying to break him out of his stealth and it won't work. And they won't even end up having the add-on that's supposed to make that harder. So it's just like, it's just the game being wonky. And I feel like he would be a good time if that worked consistently, but the fact that it doesn't makes him pretty like frustrating to fight. So I would rather face somebody else. Demo's a good time. Demo's a great time. Is he one of my favorites? I don't think he's one of my, is he? I don't know. We'll put him at the top of a good time for now. He might move up to favorites. Because like, Demo's pretty fun. Like, you know, he opened his mouth to do shred, and there's a little mind game there that you gotta like do back and forth with him. He doesn't just get map pressure for free because he's got to put down his portals, and you can break those portals. I don't know. I don't think I usually have a bad time with the demo. You know, like whenever I have a demo match, usually it's not a bad time. So like, I don't know. I think demo's just a good time. Yeah, Demo. You tell him. I'm a fun person to play against. Good job, Demo. So Oni, I don't know how I feel about Oni. I think I'll put him like at the bottom of a good time. I like fighting him slightly more than like, I like him more than like fighting like a good nurse, because like in the same vein in nurse, like sometimes Oni can be annoying because of like a good Oni will just slug the whole team, but that's like really hard to do, right? So like you kind of like respect that when it happens. I think another thing is like it kind of has this weird like Huntress thing where like his Kanabo when he's in his demon rush is like super forgiving. like I'll get hit around corners where he won't even be aiming my general direction and he'll still hit me. But like as somebody who's played Oni, I understand that like that is super hard. Like those hits are super hard to get. So like I guess there's just some forgiveness for that. But like usually when I get Oni, I'm like hype, right? Because like I think his Demon Rush is one of the few things in the games that I still fear. You know, like even though I've been playing the game for a while, like when I hear bro, and I'm like, man, I gotta be careful. Like I gotta be really careful, or this could end really badly. And I like that, you know, he still has that like impact, you know, on me, even though I've been playing for a while. Oh, it's the Death Slinger. You are a bad time, sir. Not as much as Wraither Spirit, but you are a bad time, sir. And this is before the nerf. Okay. like a lot of the reasons, like a lot of people are like, why did they ever nerf Deathslinger? It doesn't make sense. He didn't need a nerf. The fact that you can just ADS, just do this over and over and over and hit you, means there's not really a lot of counterplay there, which sucks. Also, the fact that he can run Monitor and Abuse, and with his 24 Meteor Terrorius go down even further, and now he has a Harpoon, so he can just literally shoot you from outside of his tear radius if you weren't paying attention close enough. I've been shot from outside tear radius, and I have been paying attention, which is the sucky part, and this character just feels sucky to fight, but like he's not winning either, right? Like he's terrible in the 4v1, right? So it's just kind of like frustrating for both sides. So like I especially don't like facing him on Survivor for that reason, just because there's so little in the way of like you can do against him in the 1v1, and that's kind of like the funnest part of the game is the 1v1, the chase. And you know, if that's just kind of like mute and boring, I don't like facing you. that's just long and short of it. Ooh, good old Pyramid Head. Good old Pyramid Head. This one's gonna be controversial, but in a different way. Pyramid Head, I would argue, is probably my favorite character to fight in the game. And a lot of people are like, but he nullifies your DS by using the cage, and he can chop you, he can do a mini Mori. And I'm like, have you ever like fought a Pyramid Head that like goes for 6 shots and goes for his M2 all the time? I feel like dodging the M2 of Pyramid Head is literally one of the funnest things that I can do as Survivor. Like anticipating when he's gonna throw his M2 and dodging it just perfectly is like one of the funnest mind games that I have played in this game. Like, I'm being serious. Like, I love fighting this character. Like, when it's a Pyramid Head and he likes throwing his M2, like, I feel like I'm having the time of my life. Like, dodging those or even being hit by a good one, like, it's like really, really, really cool. I love being hit by a super far M2 when he has like the Burning Man painting, and then I look and he doesn't have I'm all ears, and I'm like, oh man, he just did that raw. He just knew better. He was just a knower. You know, like, it's super cool. Like, it's just a fun time. I don't know. I just like fighting Pyramid Head. What can I say? I do love Silent Hill a lot, so obviously biased there as well. So sorry. Blight. Oh man, this is gonna get me in trouble too. Blight's going at the top of a bad time, to be honest. Once again, this one's more of like, I feel like a community aspect to it. Blight, I think, inherently is like a fun character to fight against. Like, actually a really, really fun character to fight against. Like, trying to dodge his Blight rushes is super fun and super neat. But the Blight community are absolute sweatlords. They are always running Ruin, Tinker, Undying. They're always using 2 slowdowns of some sort, like Pop Ruin or something like that. Like, the Blight community is so incredibly sweaty and tryhardy and take this game way too seriously. And I feel like the 1 out of 10 times that I fight a Blight that isn't taking the game way too seriously is like super fun, and I like those. But 9 times out of 10, the Blight players I run into are running double slowdown or have put like 10 bajillion hours into flicking, and then I go in their stream and they got like super stretched res, and they're like sweating. They're losing their minds essentially. They're like going marbles over this whole like. I feel like they're closet Spirit mains, you know? Like, Spirit, like, allows them to do the similar stuff, but without the effort, but they want to have the effort so they don't get called out for being sweatlords. But I see straight through you. You take this game way too seriously, and you guys kind of are lame. So, unfortunately, Blight goes pretty low because of his player base, and not because of the inherent character, which is interesting. The Twins. I would rather eat glass than fight the Twins. Once again, this is kind of a player issue. I don't think the Twins inherently like have too many crazy issues, but like the thing is, like, the people who play Twins as a super slugging machine, because Victor runs at 150, right? 150. So they injure you, and then they use Victor to chase after you, and unless the Twins player sucks, they're gonna hit that Victor pounce basically for free, because, you know, they're way faster than you, like way faster. So they're going to catch up, and they're going to hit the thing, and then they can slug you. But once they hook you, they can also camp you, because you can switch off Charlotte or back and forth. It doesn't really matter who you leave there, but you can basically essentially leave one of the Twins behind to stay near your hook and kind of guard the hook or guard the hook area or guard a gen. So like, they're equally good at camping and slugging, which are equally like not very fun. And every Twins player plays them this way. Like, I've met like maybe one Twins player that doesn't play them like super like that, and that was like a long time ago. That was when people were still learning how to play the character. So usually whenever I run into somebody playing the twins, they're doing that sort of stuff, and they don't have to. Like, I've played twins quite a few, like not quite a few times. I play twins every once in a while, and like I never play them that way, and I still do okay. Like, they don't have to do this. They just want to sweat for that W. So I guess that's just what they do. All right, Trickster. Trickster's an interesting one. I think Trickster I've like lightened up about like a lot. Previously I would put him down on would rather eat glass, but like actually like playing him a lot has kind of like opened my eyes to like, hey, this isn't exactly just easy mode. There's still not a whole lot of counterplay, which is why he still ends up in a bad time, but especially out in an open area and you're just taking knives and there's not much you can do. But like he's not like the worst in the world like I thought he used to be, just because, you know, I guess playing the character gave me a lot of perspective on the survivor side of things, that hey, some of these threats are not the easiest, and like you can definitely mess up as Trickster, but just like, you know, like Freddy and, you know, Wraith, there's still a lot of situations where you just kind of lose for no reason without any sort of counterplay or input. And I think it's like really annoying. I wish there was more you could do against the Trickster to avoid his flurry of knives. I'm not sure what that would be. Like, I don't have something for that, unfortunately. But yeah. I just want this little clip in here of the fact that he's too tall to fit in my box. Okay, the Nemesister. Nemesister has been somebody I've been actually thinking about a lot, and is actually the reason I probably made this list, because I firmly decided how I feel about Nemesis. I would rather eat glass. He is, besides Hag, the least fun killer in the game to fight for me. Mostly because of that thing right there, that tentacle thing. Because essentially at loops, he kind of just doesn't lose. And what I mean by that is you throw down the pallet at like a safe loop. Let's say it's just a completely safe loop. Throws down the pallet. He either infects you with his tentacle, hits you with his tentacle if you're already infected, or he breaks the pallet. None of which end poorly for him unless he's bad and he misses. So he has 3 positive outcomes at a safe pallet, which is supposed to be your strongest thing that you can do against a killer as Survivor. And Nemesis never loses. Nemesis always gets something out of a pallet throw. He just does. Like, you never ever get anything out of throwing a pallet against a Nemesis. You just don't. The Nemesis, unless he messes up, always gets something out of a pallet throw from you. And I think that's incredibly bogus and makes him one of the most oppressive 1v1 killers in the game, is that he just always gets something out of the 1v1 encounter. Like, he never, like, there's plenty of other killers on this list that if you misplay, you're at ground zero. Like Pig, if you do your M2 mind game and you miss, you just got to go back and chase and deal with your cooldown, man. You don't have an option. You miss a demo shred, you just got to like hit the wall and recover, or miss and recover. You don't get an option there. Nemesis always gets something out of his M2, and I think that's just like the most annoying, oppressive thing. So, because then the counterplay is just pre-dropping pallets and just feeding him pallets for free. Like, this character is just dumb. This character sucks so much for me because I love Resident Evil so much, but the way they design this character is like designed to be archetypically good and not to be more like Nemesis. And as a result, he's just like this very like anti-chase, frustrating killer to fight, and I absolutely hate him more than I hate any like killer in this game besides Hag. So yeah. Okay, last but not least, Pinhead. I think Pinhead is a good time, but not that great of a time. So like, I would rather face him than a lot of people in this game. Just, if not just for the fact that like those M2 shots that he does, we're not the chain hunt, but like he's just his normal possessed chain, his M2. Those are pretty hard to hit. So if I get hit by one of those, I'm like, nice job, you know. I think he gets unfun to fight for 2 reasons, and that's like, first, the community. The community likes, like, I don't know why the Pinhead community so far has been like kind of sweaty. Like, they're always running like Ruin Undying, Franklin's Hoarder. They go hard for some reason. I don't know why, but the Pinhead community takes this game a little too seriously. I fought like maybe like one Pinhead that like hasn't done that so far. I don't know what the deal is. Also, the chain hunt, Even if you're like on the box, like the chain hunt, it just like prevents you from doing so much. And I guess that's the point. That's like, you know, that's the point. That's just kind of like his inherent slowdown rate. But this is just a list talking about like how fun they are in the fight, and in that regard, like just being poked every 2 seconds and being stopped from doing everything, just because your rando forgot to go get the box while everybody else was on a gen or healing somebody. It's like that can be a pretty frustrating situation. But like I don't think that's enough to really like weigh him down as somebody who's like unfun to fight. Yeah, I feel like I like fighting him more than I do Plague. And most of the people, yeah, everybody that's below him on this list, I would rather face Pinhead than them, and that's kind of the point of the list. So yeah. All right, so that is my list, my tier list of my favorite and least favorite killers to fight in Dead by Daylight. Hopefully your favorite killer didn't end up too low and your most hated killer didn't end up too high. If there's some massive disagreements, I would love to hear about them in the comments below, or any sort of like contradictions or hypocrisy that I have, which, you know, everybody's prone to that. It happens. So yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts on, you know, who you hate to face, who you love to face, that sort of thing. Other than that, I don't have anything else for you. Thank you so much for watching this video, but don't forget, you can like it by hitting the thumbie thing, and then that thumbie thing will invite more people to come watch this video, because that's how the YouTube algorithm works. Speaking of YouTube algorithm, it really hates the homepage. So even though I upload daily, it won't show you my videos. So if you want to kind of like help that out, do the Subaroni, because that'll help it show up. And if you hate it, you can just take it away, because it's not permanent. But yeah, anything else for you friends? Thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate you so much. Have a good rest of your day, bud. And if I don't see you in the next video, I will see you when I see you, friends. Goodbye.